Welcome to another great tutorial for the Metayota editor. Today we are going to learn about parameters. What are parameters and what is the benefit of using them? I just logged in and create now a fresh server for this tutorial. Just a few seconds, and the server is ready. I always disable the cache when I am developing. When you are finished with coding, make sure you enable the cache again, because your website will be 400% faster with the cache on. Now let's create a new web service. It will be a simple PHP script to send emails. Click on the resource menu, and then on Add Resource. The title of my web service is Mail Web Service. The name in the case of the web service also defines the URL of the web service, so it will be possible to call this PHP script as /call/mail-web service. As a type, we also choose web service. The project is website, and we click on a resource. The web service has now been created. In the editor view, we create a new tab for our PHP code. Choose PHP as the technology and click OK. Now we are going to write the PHP code for sending out an email. The function needs at least 3 arguments, to, subject, and message. We are going to create 3 variables for these parameters in PHP. We are going to use the $data variable. It is comparable to the $_post or $get. You receive all of the data submitted to the web service with these variables. The PHP mail function finally sends out the email. We are finished with programming our demo web service. It is not needed to define parameters. Your web service already works. But if you want to test your web service in the editor or create an auto-generated form to use the web service from the front end, you should define parameters. In the parameters view, we are just adding a new parameter called to for the receiver of the mail. There are many options for the parameters. I'm going to add an email validator. The first parameter is added. Now let's add the subject parameter. The title is subject, and the name also subject, but only lowercase letters. The type is text, and it is a required form field. The third parameter is message. It has the type big text, so a big text area will appear for editing this parameter. We are now finished adding the parameters. We just have to make sure users have access to this web service, so we switch to the access control view. We give access to users and visitors for our tag data, which includes the parameters. And also users and visitors will be able to do server calls, in this case sending out mails. Click on the I button. Now I can finally test and use my web service without coding a form. I'm going to test the web service now, so I have to fill out the to, so the receiver, the subject, and the message. I click on send and the web service has executed. I just see a white page because the web service does not deliver any data back. But I am going to change this now by switching to the editor view. I will echo a small text which says mail sent. Now I will fill in my form again. And when I now click on submit, I see the message mail sent on the top right. But the parameters are not only for web services. I'm going to open a tag component, the number form element. It is a field which is optimized for entering numbers. When I click the configure button, I can test the resource, and I see the parameters for the selected resource as a form. I set the suffix to US dollars and the label to price. Now let's see how the component looks like. Click on the View button to see the tag rendered with the given parameters. You see that it is only possible to enter numbers in this field, and the number is correctly formatted. Let's check out how the parameters view of this resource looks like. It should contain the 3 parameters we saw when we clicked the configure button. It has these 3 parameters, value, label, and suffix. But they can not only be used to test components, or use them in the editor. You also have, for example, code completion, or you can generate forms for these resources to display to the user. Let's switch to the website.home resource to see how we use this tag form.number. We use it just like a standard HTML component. Form.number is the name of the tag, and label is one of the parameters. Again, we set price as label and US dollars as suffix for this component. We still need to add the form.number to the dependencies. Finally, we are finished with adding this number component to our website. When clicking that button, you see that the website has been updated with the new component. But the parameters are not only useful for web services and tags, they are also useful for database tables. So log in PHPMyAdmin. I'm going to create a new table in PHPMyAdmin I name product. It has 3 fields, a title, a price, and a description. I'm going to add a new resource again. This time for the product database table. It has the title and the name product. The type is database table and the project website. Again, I switch to the parameters view. There I am going to add the database columns as parameters. The first column of the product table is title, which is the name of the product. Then the description, which is a short description of the product and has the type big text. The last parameters is price, which is of type number. It is the price in US dollars. We are finished with the parameters. We'll still need to go to the access control view to add the permissions. We give access to visitors and users. They should be able to access the tag data, which is HTML, JavaScript, etc. When we click the preview button, we see a list of products. Currently, there are no products in the database. We are adding a new product. I set the title to USB-C connector. I am writing some description and set the price to $10. The row has now been added to our database, so you do not need to code anything to have a user interface to administer your data. We shortly check PHPMyAdmin and we'll see that the new row has been added to the database. But there is more to know about parameters. The best thing is that you can generate forms on your website for all your web services, tags, database tables, etc., which means you never have to program a form again. And the parameters are also the documentation for your project. But you are not required to use this feature, and not all parameters a tag has need to be defined there. Remember, this is my website. I want on my page a form to use the send mail web service I coded a few moments ago. For this, I use the form.resource parameter. The resource type is the name of the resource I want to generate a form of. It doesn't matter if it is a web service, a database table, or a tag. In this case, the name of the resource I want to have a form of is mail-web service. Switch into the dependencies view to add the form.resource because I want to use this component. Now I click the preview button to see if the form appears, and obviously, it seems to work, but it does not yet have a button. I switch back to the editor. I want to set the label, which is the title of the form. The label should be send an email. And I need to set the submit label, which is the text on the submit button. I set it to send. The parameter submit is an event. There I define the function that is called when the submit button is clicked. I call my function send mail. The variable event contains the data of the form. I now add a new JavaScript file. I define a class for my tag. It needs to extend the class tag. My function is called sendMail. It receives the data from the form. I use globalResource.call to call the PHP file of another resource. My web service is called mail-web service. I pass the data I received from the form to this web service. It will send the email then. The server will send me back a result in JSON. If the mail was sent successfully, I want to display a message that the email was sent. Remember, this is my web service to send emails. It has these 3 parameters, like the receiver, the subject, the message. Now let's switch to my website and reload the website, so I will see my new mail send form on my website. I fill out the form now nash.bird@metayota.com. I will fill out the subject and the message. The email will already be sent when I click on submit, but the alert will not yet appear. The PHP script needs to deliver an answer in JSON, so the JavaScript can read it and display the alert. So we set mail_sent to true. If we now click the send button again, the alert should appear. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial about parameters. Parameters are an important feature in the Metayota editor. It speeds up the time of development because you do not have to program any forms anymore. Please visit our website and register.